Hello, everybody. My name is Brett Jackson. I'm with the Detroit Curling Club and a volunteer for USA Curling. Here hosting a webinar on how to host a virtual club event. Joining with me is Nick Sanders from the Columbus Curling Club, and he's going to present to you today. But again, I want to thank USA Curling and Steve O'Keefe for helping put on these series of webinars to help us, the clubs around the USA, uh, uh, learn about different ways to engage with our members and improve the clubs that we have. So with further ado, I'm going to introduce Nick Sanders. Nick, go take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking some time with us today to learn a little bit about hosting your virtual club event. I would echo what Brett said. Thanks to USA Curling for giving us the opportunity to get you this information. Hopefully you find it useful in these times where we're learning different ways to manage our clubs. As Brett said, my name is Nick Sanders, member of the Columbus Curling Club. You'll see there my contact information is in the bottom right corner. You're always more than welcome to reach out to me if you have any questions on what you see in this webinar today. I'd be happy to help you or your club get started with something like this in the event that you're choosing to do so during these times. So Brett, head on to the next slide there. There are several platforms on which you can host your club's virtual event, whether that virtual event's going to be your annual meeting, your monthly board meeting, or maybe just kind of a camaraderie event, such as some of the broomstacking things that are going on right now. For our purpose today, I've chosen to use Zoom specifically just because I've kind of found that that's the easiest one for people to get in and out of, especially folks who might not be quite as technologically versed. It tends to be the easiest one to get access to. So certainly there's other ways. Just for the purposes of our presentation today, we're working specifically through Zoom. Brett? So Zoom, being an online platform, there's some different account types. You will need an account in order to host the meeting. There's a basic account, which is going to give you unlimited one-to-one meetings, and it's going to allow you to host meetings up to 100 people. But those are going to max out at 40 minutes. So a lot of club events are probably going to take longer than that. What we've found recently is in some cases, it's taking us 10 to 15 minutes just to make sure everybody's in the same place and familiar with what they're doing before we can actually start our club meeting. So for the purposes of a curling club, their pro account is a really good way to go about things. It's $15 a month, and you can host up to 100 participants. For some clubs that might be a little bit larger, there is an addition for $50 a month, which you can toggle on and off if you do or don't need it. That's going to allow you to add up to 500 participants. Once you actually have that, on this slide here, we'll discuss kind of scheduling a meeting. Just some important reminders when you're actually putting that meeting together. I found it's pretty intuitive when you're actually on Zoom's website to do this. I'd always recommend requiring a password and choosing to automatically generate a new meeting ID with each meeting. You're going to have the option in Zoom once you have an account to just host something out of your personal meeting, but kind of think about that as your own personal conference room where if it's active, if somebody's been in there before and you're not requiring a password, it can kind of come and go in there. So generating that new meeting ID with each meeting and requiring a password allows you to make sure that only the people you want in your meeting are getting to it, which is especially important, especially if you're hosting something large or that you may be marketing via email or social media. Not having that password would make it really easy for somebody to jump in. I'd also always recommend requiring registration. That's going to require people to sign up ahead of time. It also gives you the opportunity to kind of see who your audience is, depending on the nature of your event, whether they're a member of your club, a member of another club, or where they're entering from. And always make sure that screen saving is disabled, especially in a larger meeting, such as your entire club, unless it's absolutely essential. You will have the ability to determine exactly who can and cannot do that. But if all else fails, make sure that screen sharing is turned off. That way, if somebody does enter your meeting with malicious intent or perhaps just accidentally shares their screen, kind of make sure you don't have any issues or faux pas coming up while you're trying to host your meeting. So managing that meeting once you have your meeting scheduled with some of the things we've just discussed, what you're seeing right here is what you'll see within Zoom. You have the ability to launch that out via Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar, or Yahoo. What I would really recommend, probably the easiest way to do it, is just copy that invitation. If you see that second bottom arrow there, you click on that within Zoom. It's just going to give you something that you can copy and paste into an email. When you're working with a curling club membership, I've found this to be the easiest because you can send that directly via email. You could even attach that into, if you have a private Facebook group or something for your club. It really puts somebody one click away. And there's a lot of folks, again, may not use technology as much as some of us, where if you start trying to do things through Outlook or Google Calendar, they might not have access to those, and it could easily get lost in the shuffle. So that share, that copy invitation and just sharing that via email, we found to be a really easy way to do that and make sure everybody's getting something consistent. So this, what you see right here is just a quick view of what you're going to see running our meeting in Zoom. So as the person running the meeting, you're going to have what you see across the bottom. We'll kind of go through what each of those do. Obviously, down in the bottom left corner, you've got your mute button, and that's just going to turn you on and off. The arrow next to it is going to give you a number of different options pertaining to your audio. The video, which Brett clicked through earlier, is going to give everybody one of their favorite functions, that background that you can adjust. If you've been on a Zoom meeting, I'm sure you've seen some people with some goofy backgrounds. And then again, right next to that, you've got the ability, there's a number of different options there. The one you just saw is if you're going to click on invite, that piece right there. Thanks, Brett. This is going to give you the ability to invite people directly from the meeting once you've started it. It's very easy if you have their contact, if somebody's already accepted your contact in Zoom. There's also the ability to send that via email as well. You're also going to have that same functionality down there in the corner where you can copy that meeting invitation. So if you started a live meeting, you're getting that email or that telephone call from the member who can't get in for whatever reason, lost their invitation. You can click there, send them that new meeting invitation. And then I know I've had several times where I've had folks texting or calling me as we're starting one of these meetings looking for the password. It's also a great way for you as the manager of the meeting to pull that password up quickly and be able to relay that to somebody who might need it. Give me a click there, Brett. Perfect. So this is our participants tab. If you're hosting a meeting, you're going to see a lot more folks within this. It's going to give you the ability to do a few things. You see there that you could mute somebody very quickly if the need arose. You click on that More tab, there's going to be several things. You can give them, for example, co-hosting abilities of the meeting, which would allow them some of the same functionality that you're seeing you have here as the host of the meeting. Gives them the ability to share their screen. If you have breakout rooms, gives them the ability to move in and out of those. Down at the bottom of this, you'll also see you have the ability to mute or unmute all the folks in the meeting. This can be handy if you are making an announcement within your meeting or you really just need to limit who's speaking. There's also the ability there with those tabs you see with the yes, no, slow, or faster for folks to communicate with you through the participants tab. Brett?
And the mute all is also helpful if someone hasn't muted themselves and has a ton of background noise and you just need to.
That is absolutely true. That's an incredibly good point there. So you do have the chat and the record functions. Those are pretty self-explanatory. Chat's going to open up a chat box where you can communicate with anybody. And then the record button's obviously going to toggle recording and not recording your meeting. I think you'll find those pretty self-explanatory. The breakout rooms are a really neat feature of Zoom, and one of the reasons we chose Zoom for this purpose. It gives you the ability to create new rooms and kind of spread out a meeting. So if you've got 100 members together, you've had your club meeting, you've done all the things you need to do administratively, had your votes, had conversations, whatever it may be, and then everybody just wants to hang out a little bit. Instead of having 70, 80, 90, 100 or more members in one room trying to talk together, it gives you the ability as the host to break those folks out into a number of rooms. So again, like with the participants tab, if we had folks in a meeting, you would see these populated with a number of people. If you click recreate, you're going to get a box that pops up, asks you how many rooms you want to split this into. It'll say you have 100 people. If you do, 10 rooms, there's going to be 10 people each. Recreate, that completely randomizes those rooms. Then you have options you can click on as well that's going to choose how long perhaps those rooms last, if folks see a timer, and how long that meeting's going to last as well. This has been really fun for us on the virtual Broomstacking calls to be able to have maybe 100 or 120 people on, send people out to different rooms that are meeting different people. It'd be great for membership as well to catch up with old friends. Just puts them into a smaller room where they can catch up a little more intimately than in a larger session, certainly. Brett, go ahead. So one of the questions I did get is if you are having a meeting with your club, you may need to be able to hold a vote. There are some functionalities within Zoom, as you saw earlier, where you can click yes and no and things along those lines, but those don't tend to give you the amount of information you may need from your membership. So in those situations, what I would recommend is using either SurveyMonkey or Google Docs. There's also a number of other polling features out there that you could use. Certainly, these are just a couple that we've used. What you can do at that point is use the chat function within Zoom to send that link to your membership during the meeting. So it's not something that's out there before the meeting, and it's something you can close down after the meeting. And you can just give the membership some time within that to log into SurveyMonkey or Google Docs, log their vote, log any proxy votes they may be holding, which I know is a big thing with our club. Get those in, get them taken care of, as opposed to doing it all through Zoom. Just find that to be a little bit easier way. And really, guys, that's about it. Like I said, Zoom's pretty simple, and hopefully that gave you the information you need in order to host your club meeting. If you have any questions, again, my name is Nick Sanders. You can see my email address down there in the bottom corner. By all means, feel free to shoot me an email. I would be happy to pop on a quick call with you and help you get your club's meeting set up. So thanks again to USA Curling for giving me the opportunity to speak to everybody today, and thanks to you, Brett.
No problem. Nick, I got a question for you.
Sure.
You often use waiting rooms before you get onto the virtual broom stacking. Can you tell us why you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the best functionalities with the waiting room, and basically to give you a little more detail, what a waiting room is, guys, is a place where your meeting members are going to kind of be held in a space until you allow them to come in. So in that participants tab that I showed you, you'll see who is in the waiting room. And a really nice reason for that is if you don't have the waiting room set up, there's functionality that could potentially allow your members or your attendees of your meeting to be in the room before you even log in. So you may be logging in, there may be already 7 or 8 people in there, and it becomes very hard at that point if you need to assign co-hosting abilities to perhaps a fellow board member or somebody like that who needs to have access to things. It's difficult to communicate those things. So it allows you to hold those folks in an area until you're ready to bring them in. And then you're one click away from bringing everybody into the meeting. So that's a great question, Brett. Thank you.
And you talked about breakout rooms. If you, as an administrator, go into a breakout room, can you still let people in out of the waiting room, or do you have to go back to the main room?
You have to move back and forth, and I would definitely recommend doing that, just so that as you're going back to allow somebody in, you're going to see that person, see who's coming into your meeting, giving you the opportunity to see who is coming in there. But it does seem with some of the changes in functionality that Zoom has put out that until you're actually back in that main session, so to speak, they're not allowing you to allow people in there without going back. So not something that was initially the case, but as they've kind of changed their stipulations, I've yet to find a way where I can allow somebody in without going back into that main session. But I do find that that's a good thing, just so that you see who that person is before you're shuffling them off to a breakout room with your attendees.
I think last question for me. The curling community is awesome. However, we do have to worry about security when we do these types of online meetings. So can you talk about when you are sharing the link to the meeting about some do's and don'ts for doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as a best practice, not sharing your meeting links on public social media is always going to be the best idea. It does give the ability for somebody to just see that who may not be your member or may not be the intended target of your audience, and that person may not have the best of intentions when it comes to entering your meeting. So it's kind of why we covered some of the stuff as far as making sure there's passwords, et cetera, that are in place, and that independent meeting number as well. but the best way to roll it out is going to be making sure that it gets to your target audience, whether that's having folks register and then sending it directly to an email list that you populate, or using your club listserv or something along those lines. But really, as a best practice, I would do everything you can to keep it off of public social media. Certainly a private members only Facebook page or something like we have at Columbus might be an okay place to do that. But yeah, absolutely keeping that off of public forums is a great idea.
All right. Well, thanks, Nick. Great job, and good curling to everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks again, Brett.